there's this one comment that comes up online when you're talking about music, like I do, and I'm sure you guys do as well if you're watching this video, that kind of drives me a little bit nuts. And yet at the same time, it couldn't be more true. It's a very, very true comment that I feel is often used in a way that is, well, not very good. And it's something which has stemmed the idea, well, the whole idea of this video, a video that I've been thinking about for quite a while. And like with a lot of these off the cuff episodes where I just talk about something at some length without any editing, just sort of let my thoughts out. It's something where I've wanted to discuss for a while. And so I thought I'm going to sit down and discuss with you today. So what is this comment? What is this comment that is so universally true and yet at the same time so annoying? Well, it's basically some variation of, I like what I like, and that's good enough. See, okay, that's absolutely fair. In fact, what could be more fair than saying you should like what you like, and if you don't like something, no one should tell you that you're wrong? Well, the reason why I get into this is because today, the way I wanted to expand upon that is by talking about how we engage with music that maybe we don't like, or maybe trying to listen to music that we wouldn't expect to like, and broaden our horizons, listen to new things. See, because most of the time when people use this phrase and say, hey, I like what I like and that's good enough, it's usually at the end of some kind of conversation where you're sharing a differing opinion, and it's basically a way of saying, look, I don't want to talk about this. It's kind of like the way of saying, look, I like what I like, all right, fair enough. Because the truth is that there's two ways of doing music reviews online. There are people like myself, and again, I suspect a lot of the people who listen to this channel who basically want to hear both the music they like, but they also want to hear new things. They want to, sort of try things that maybe they haven't heard before. They want to listen to bands where maybe they weren't sure about it, listen to new songs, give themselves a little bit of a challenge and see if they can expand their taste, expand their comfort zones, find things that they otherwise wouldn't have listened to. And then there are a very large number of people as well. And I should point out, this is not a lesser group of people. This is just a different group of people. You judge as you will. But there's a lot of people who just come online really because they love the community around what they already like, and they don't really want it to be challenged. They don't want to push themselves outside of that. Maybe they are open to new things, but essentially speaking, they're just there to celebrate what they already like. And I've come across this in my own community, my own Discord, that there are, very clearly people in these fandoms who have very clear, definite feelings both ways. I mean, one of the interesting ones, of course, is bands like BABYMETAL, and BABYMETAL, I keep on coming around to BABYMETAL when I do these kind of videos because obviously they're very much formative to the whole conversation about Japanese music that we have these days, and that they exploded so much for Japanese music scene overseas, and they were to a lot of people the introduction into Japanese music. And yet what are they founded on? They're founded on the mixture of sort of Japanese idol music meets metal. They are, by their own definition, a juxtaposition. And yet there's a feeling these days that they mostly appeal to sort of metal fans, and that the poppier aspects are maybe not what appeals to a lot of people. It's hard to say, but I do wonder when I look at these groups who have such a wide range of different sounds making up what they do, making up who they are, I do wonder how people engage with hearing new music and how much people really think about why they like what they like, what aspects of what they like. HANABIE is a fantastic example, and this is the reason why I bring them onto screen at this moment, because HANABIE is, well, this is a subject which has definitely really made me think a lot. See, we all have different things that we prefer, and I personally, I would say with hand on heart, I listen to pretty much every genre of music to varying degrees, but I can think of something I like in virtually every genre, whether it be folk or country music through to heavy metal, punk, rap, pop, rock, jazz, classical, you name it, there will be something I like in every genre. I've always tried to keep my taste as open as possible, but as mentioned, there'll be certain things that I tend to prefer and certain things that don't work as much for me. And one of the ones that I've said really since we started doing this channel back January 2019 is that scream vocals has always been something I've struggled with. Now, yes, when I was growing up, there was stuff like Linkin Park was on the radio a lot, and I actually kind of enjoyed Linkin Park, and there was elements of scream vocals in that. So it's not like I just got a complete and utter aversion to anything that goes into that territory. But as a general, it's just not something I've gravitated towards. So when I listen to HANABIE, I'm listening to HANABIE knowing that the main thing that I feel a lot of HANABIE fans are talking about and saying that they adore, Yukina's scream vocals, is kind of, well, it's something that I get it. I understand how it works, I like it, but it's not really what I'm there for. And to a certain degree, if it was just down to my taste, I'd probably tone it down and have a little bit less of that and a little bit more of her doing her other styles of vocals. Now, of course, you say that to some HANABIE fans and they'll immediately, obviously, bristle with, well, you hate the very thing that makes HANABIE HANABIE, and yet to me, the thing that makes HANABIE HANABIE is in fact more Matsuri and the style of songwriting that she goes for, where it combines so many things, and one of the things it combines into their sound is, well, a large degree of EDM and pop techniques. And I've had a couple of times where I've praised the pop techniques used in HANABIE's music and then got angry comments saying, how dare you say they got pop in their music? There's nothing pop about them. They're not pop at all. And so it is very interesting how you can have a group like this who fuses so many things together. And yet there will be obviously certain parts of the fan base who feel like, you're not listening in the right way, you're not liking the right things about it. And this kind of makes me think again about the fact that you can have people who very much just kind of like their thing, and then some people who are open to a lot more. And you see this obviously when it comes to reactors. Now, when it comes to a lot of reaction channels, obviously I go through a lot of different types of music. There are some reaction channels where I feel like the purpose of the reaction channel is it's kind of like sitting down with a friend who's going to listen to the music that you like with you and say, I like it really a lot too. We love it, and it's all about sort of them smiling, listen to music, everyone's having fun, they're dancing along, and at the end you feel kind of validated. It's like hiring a friend for free. It's like, we all know that feeling where you really enjoy a piece of music and you just want to play it to all your friends, but you kind of know that even with your friends, it's going to be like, well, if I play it to them, I'm sure they're not going to like it as much as I do. We've all had that feeling probably when we were younger and more naive, where you first hear a song, you really like it, you play it to your best friend, and they're like, yeah, it's all right. But an online reactor is someone who's going to probably, in that type of reactor, is someone who's going to sit there and enjoy it with you, and it's that sense of validation. Now, there are the other types of reactors, the ones more like myself, I think, where it's more a case of doing the review, where the reaction's kind of something we just do to sort of like share that moment with you. But then it's more about us giving our off-the-cuff first thoughts about what we actually think about the song, sort of breaking down and analysing what we liked about it. I mean, you can see with a lot of my reactions, the average sort of pop song's like 3 to 5 minutes, but my reaction's like 17 minutes, 13 minutes, 15 minutes. This one's 11, this one's 13. I do a lot of talking afterwards. I do a lot of talking, as you can tell anyway on this channel. And that's a different type of reaction. Again, not saying one is better than the other. These are just two different things that seem to be appealing to two very separate kinds of fan. And when I'm talking about these kind of music, like I say, I'm trying to break down, if I'm hearing a song, as any reviewer I think should do, I'm trying to think, well, what do I think about it? But also trying to work out who it is trying to appeal to. And trying to work out, okay, so for the person who this is for, can I see how that would work? Can I maybe extend my taste to better understand it? And to be honest, this is something that we all do, because let's face it, if we all think about the music that we liked when we were 15 years old, I'm pretty sure that we're all liking more different types of music now than we were when we were 15. I mean, let's face it, if you still have the same basic music taste you did when you were 15, I kind of feel bad for you. Like, that sounds very boring. I don't know, maybe there are people who are like that and enjoy that, but I feel like most of us, our taste expands over time. So I feel like when I hear something that doesn't necessarily appeal to me, I try to work out, okay, what is it that I don't get? What is it someone else is enjoying that I'm not? And I try to get to understand that better. And I feel that's something we all try to do. And that is the basis of how reaction channels and well, more review-based reaction channels, I think, work. And that brings us on to things like HANABIE. HANABIE is a band who, if I had heard them, if I'd heard them 10 years ago, I just think I would have listened to it and I thought, that's weird, but no. But now I think I get it. And the reason I think I get it is because I've been able to understand, I've gone through music like, well, ironically, things like Passcode, versions of Lady Baby before, or you could even take it back to something as simple as BABYMETAL, who, not naturally a band until very recently, who had screams in their music. Well, not from them, but in the background, they had like the sort of growls and the screams. And slowly, I've been able to understand and take in how that can work. Now, still, I would say as a general, my propensity, my taste leans away from screams in music. It's not the sort of thing that I naturally gravitate towards, but I can enjoy it. I can take in the music around it. I can see it in its context, and I can like that. And I feel that is something that's something where my taste has grown, and my taste has grown because I've come into contact with people who like this music, and I've kind of understood what they like. I've got my head around that, and this is something that I feel like when I do reviews, I want to explain what I see in the music so that maybe you can take that in as well. And this is where we get that kind of extension. I mean, the funny thing is that, just kind of stop this on Song Free by BABYMETAL, and ironically, Song Free by BABYMETAL, it had Slaughter to Prevail in it. It was a very heavy scream song, and I kind of came to the conclusion with that I liked the BABYMETAL bits, but you know what? The scream was too much for me there. It was overpowering to the point where it detracted from the things I liked. There was so much of that the things that I liked about the song were kind of just overpowered. And so it was an okay listen, but it wouldn't be a song that I would come back to. And could my taste on that change over time? It's possible, but as I say, I feel the majority of that song is scream. So it's not something so much that I can bring into my pre-existing tastes. It's something that it wouldn't work for me. So obviously we all have our borders. I'm not saying that we should all just suddenly learn to like everything. I'm not saying that you can't dislike something. You can dislike something. In fact, that's another important part, is you need to be able to say, look, I didn't like that because of these reasons, and then have that discussion. But again, this comes back to that thing where people just say, well, that's my taste. Okay, that's fine. It's like, if you say that's my taste, I like what I like, sometimes people will word it in more of a universal macroscopic way and say, well, people like what they like, and if people like it, then that's fine. And I feel like this, when people use this particular phrasing, it's almost kind of derogatory to the entire idea of doing reviewing at all. It's like, well, just let people like what they like. And somehow you're some terrible troll who's there forcing people to, testing people's opinions against their will, sort of walking in with a scouring face while everyone's smiling and going, well, why do you like it? It's not that. I think anyone who genuinely enjoys reviewing and listening to reviews and being part of musical conversation online, we're not sitting there trying to poke holes in the fun. We're trying to understand the mechanisms behind the beautiful artistry, the way these things are constructed, the little psychological things that are cued by certain sounds, by certain rhythms, by certain harmonies, chord structures, these things that, by certain tones, instruments, by certain things that might evoke memories of sounds that might remind you of a sort of a more joyful feeling, or they might sort of give you a scary, intense feeling. We're looking at all of these various aspects because when you look at all the ingredients, it's beautiful. You can enjoy a meal, but you can also be incredibly impressed by looking at the recipe, looking at how it's made and understanding it. If you really liked a good meal, wouldn't you kind of want to know what went into it and how it was made so that you could better understand it? So the next time you're thinking about something to eat, you can say, well, do you know what? I really liked this. I hadn't tried that particular that vegetable or something before. It's like, I really like that, or that herb or that spice. Turns out I really like that. Maybe I should try something else that has that in it, so that next time I can enjoy it. You could be someone who's I'm using the food metaphor, I'm extending it more, but you could be someone who's never tasted I'm gonna say basil. I know Americans pronounce it basil, so it's really a bad choice. But okay, you could be someone who's just never really liked the taste of basil before, and then you have you can get this tuna sushi here, which has got cheese and basil on top. actually really nice. And that could be the first time where you go, do you know what? I really like the taste of basil. I'm going to try something else that has a bit of a basil flavour to it. And you can find yourself liking that flavour because you've just had it in a context where it worked for you. And that is exactly how music works. You could be someone who you've never liked rap before. I've come across so many people who've been like this. I've never liked rap before. They're like, I hate rap. I've had people who've used that tiresome joke as, oh, rap is just a silent C. yeah, crap, I get it. Anyone who likes rap has heard that joke a million times, by the way. So it's like, yeah, it's just kind of cringe when people do that. You could say that, but then you could have listened to Babymetal and you could have heard something like BMC. Maybe you hate rap, so you hate that song. Or maybe you could have been like, there's a bit of rap in that. Kind of like that. That was cool. And maybe you'll try something else. Maybe it'll extend your taste a bit further and you'll start trying something and maybe you'll hear some more rap stuff that you like and you'll be kind of like surprised. I mean, Babymetal, ironically, you could have been a metal fan who got into Babymetal. For the first time you heard a little bit of pop and you thought, I'm going to try something different. And then next thing you know, you're an Anno fan. You could be going in all these kind of directions. You could be, you could find passcode, all these kind of things in between. I feel like Japanese music is constructed from a mixture of ingredients, a mixture of different things that goes together. And so in a weird way, every time you listen to Japanese music, which is built on that freedom of combining and mixing genres, you are also getting a little bit of a buffet where you're getting to taste test things that you might not have otherwise tried. So instead of listening to something like HANABIE and saying, no, there isn't any pop in it, there's no EDM, it's metal. Harajuku. Instead, you could go, do you know what? Yeah, Matsuri, she's really clever. She uses these little bits of like EDM and stuff in there, and it was never really my thing, but I might try a little bit of that. I might try, speak to another HANABIE fan who maybe is into it because they like the EDM aspects and say, hey, can you recommend something else that might be EDM for a HANABIE fan like me? And then next thing you know, you're listening to that. And this, sorry, big old swig of water. It's water today, not coffee, by the way, because I already finished a whole jug of coffee, and like I was like, okay, maybe I'm reaching a point where I'm drinking too much caffeine. But it's like so this is one of the reasons why Japanese music is so good, is because it can expose you to new things that you wouldn't have tried before. So when I hear people going into Japanese music, falling in love with it because it's recontextualizing the music they maybe liked before, maybe it's recontextualizing metal for them, maybe it's recontextualizing hard rock for them. When they go into that, but then they say, well, I like it because I like hard rock, but I'm still going to only listen to the hard rock bits. That's as far as I'm going to take it. I feel like that is a massive missed opportunity to really get the joy out of this type of music. But again, if people like what they like, I'm not going to critique them for doing that. You've got every right to just like what you like and stay with that. And that's fine. If you want to sort of say, I've got what I'm comfortable with, I don't want to go any further, that's absolutely fine. But for me, I feel like the whole point of being online and doing channels like this is to talk about, to find out why people like what they like. Find out why people have different tastes, so that when we find out why people have different tastes, we can suddenly find a whole branch of music that we may not have known about before, may not have known we liked before, and suddenly we've got a whole branch of new music that we can enjoy. Or maybe there's bands who we would have struggled with before, but we can start to enjoy them by kind of getting our head around those things, getting to understand these things a little bit better. I feel like this is kind of the joy of musical conversation. So when people say to me, hey, people like what they like, let's just leave it at that. It's true, and yet I feel like that statement, the way it's often used in a kind of defensive way, I feel like it feels like people putting the limit on themselves and saying, well, like, just don't challenge people's tastes. It's like, well, some people might not want to have their taste challenged, but a lot of people find the music they most love through doing that. And I suspect most of the people who are into Japanese music, who adore Japanese music, are going to adore it for that exact reason. Because they took a chance on something they wouldn't have otherwise gone to. Because they listened to something that maybe they wouldn't have thought of. Maybe they listened to a band who are dressed as maids, and even just something as simple as that visual aspect. Listen to a band dressed as, Japanese women dressed as maids. Maybe they were into hard rock for years. Maybe they were listening to, there's a lot of, a lot of the BAND-MAID fans. They're kind of, there's younger BAND-MAID fans, but there's a lot of them in their sort of 50s, 60s. And, they were probably listening to stuff back in the day, your sort of your Motorheads, your AC/DCs. I've heard a lot of people sort of reference these kind of bands, Slayer, that kind of stuff. And, the idea, if someone had said to them at the time, hey, we're going to listen to a Japanese band, a Japanese hard rock band, dressed as maids, all women, I think, that would have been a bit unusual at a certain point in their life. But you take that chance, you go across, there would be aspects of that you wouldn't expect to like. So all of us, I think, coming to this place have at some point stepped over a certain threshold, and so I do think it's important to keep yourself open to a little bit more. Now, anyway, I'm slightly going around this point, so I want to kind of produce, because I feel like there's a possibility that when I say this, I could come off like I'm kind of taking maybe the pretentious high road and going, we should expand our horizons. And as much as I think that's true, I do think it's also fair to present the opposite argument, in that it's also okay to have really simple tastes. Now, I will, a lot of the bands who I adore them for their unusual things, their complicated things. I love bands who do complicated stuff. But I've also sort of called out, like one of my favorite bands right now, and a band who's really sort of taking up a lot of my listening time from day to day, is Neki. And, Neki is a band who they have superb musicianship, but what's the songs that I most listen to by Neki? I'm going to be honest, some of them are kind of the really complex ones, but one of the ones I listen to most is Dreams. And Dreams is probably their simplest song, but it just makes me happy. And it's simple, and it's really, really, considering they're such a talented band, they put a lot of nuance into that song, admittedly. But, it's certainly not testing any of them to their maximum. None of them are like working overtime, having to really sort of keep up to play Dreams. It's not like this super complicated song, but it just works. And so it's worth pointing out that for all of this expanding of our horizons, it's fine to like something which is a bit more simple. And one of the things that I think is also very important for reviewers is the ability to explain why something simple can really take your breath away, can keep you sort of entertained for hours and hours upon end. It's looking at how you can, and again, there's a science to that. You can analyze that in a way that is not being over analytical. It's just sort of honestly looking at how it works. The very simple way that a catchy melody works, a catchy melody, like with Dreams, you've got something where it's got the held notes, but it's also got, sort of a good melody where it doesn't overly repeat certain notes. It's got little skips where it goes down to the, skips its like rhythm, so it's not overly sort of repeating the same rhythmic tricks. There's little things that you can go into there, not to overanalyze one song, but you can look at what makes a simple song great as well. I mean, ironically, one of the things that I would say makes Neki's simple songs so damn good is that they have nuances in there. You listen to, Raygan Girl is another one of my favorites by them. And there are complex bits to that. But sometimes some of the best things about Raygan Girl come from drummer Kokoro, who, like, you listen to her drum beats, none of them are, I would say, super complicated. We're not talking about hard to play, but listen how she puts in fills, how she changes the rhythm in just the right place. There is a real intelligence in how you can do something simple, super intelligent as well. You can be really clever about doing something that isn't super complicated, but just putting all the right bits in the right places. And so I think it's equally fair to analyze and really pick through something that is a simpler piece of music. I don't want music reviewing and analytical analysis of music to always be associated with, complexity and looking for detail and being highbrow. It's like, no, sometimes it can be about looking at the most basic, simple, easygoing, breezy pleasures and understanding why certain bands are just really good at that, really good at bringing a simple smile to your face. I mean, ironically, again, I'll bring it back to Anna. Anna's got some quite complex songs, and she's got some brilliant input herself, but she works with obviously some famous writers as well. And, you look at some of her really complex songs, they'll have like tons of complicated changes. And then you look at something like F Wonderful World, which is basically, you know, a little bit more of a, you know, a bit of rap, a bit of a little dance, simple riff underneath. But there are clever things. There's clever things like with that. With if you've heard it before, I mean, I won't go into it too much just in case you haven't heard the song. But there's kind of like a repeating riff in the background. But then during the chorus, that note just sort of slightly spirals up, and it gives it a little bit of an out of control feeling. The way that that sort of seems to spiral off with no clear idea of how that note pattern is going to resolve, it adds a tension. And a tension, not attention. Well, attention and attention, maybe both. So, you know, there are little techniques that appear in even the simplest songs. So this, and I think actually, to be honest, although I was putting this as a footnote, I suppose this is almost as important as the main point as well, which is that I don't think when people are being analytical about music and someone replies by saying, hey, people just like what they like, leave it alone. I think there can also sometimes be the implication that you are overanalyzing. You're missing the basic, simple joys. And that also is a wild misunderstanding. Like, when you analyze music, as I say, you can analyze. Analyze sounds like such a cold clinical word. But you can analyze simple joys. There's no reason why not. You know, you can analyze a kid's TV show and see why it's so great. I mean, you can analyze Wallace and Gromit. And sorry, that's such a British reference. But you can analyze something like Wallace and Gromit and you can see why it's actually very good entertainment. You know, for Americans, you can analyze SpongeBob SquarePants. There you go. You know, you can analyze simple pleasures and find the way in which they manage to be both fulfilling and entertaining whilst at the same time feeling easy, breezy, simple, and, you know, maybe having a universal appeal. So what are the final points on this? Well, I guess my final points when looking back at this, I'm going to put a picture of TRiDENT on the screen because hashtag no bias. Big TRiDENT fan. Haven't talked about them in this video, but I queued up that picture, so I just want to put it there now. What are the points that I want to make in this? Well, I guess if I was to sum it up, first of all, there are, despite the fact that we all are basically in fan communities, and, you know, most of the people watching this are probably people who've come to this channel for reaction videos, so you probably watch reactions. Despite that, and despite us all kind of circling around each other and being in the same space, there are kind of two basic approaches, and both of them are fine. Some people just come to the internet for comfort, to get more of what they like, to take it in as fans who just want to, you know, get more of this thing that they're entertained by, and they don't really want to be challenged. And I'm okay with that. And then some people like me kind of really, we want to be challenged all the time. We want to find the next exciting thing, even from the bands we like TRiDENT, ironically. I got a reason to talk about TRiDENT, yay. TRiDENT, I love them. I love the way that they always like sort of find new exciting things to do within rock music. And yet when they came out with that song You, which was just a ballad and it starts with piano, I was just so happy. I was like, yes. It's like, it's not like I've never heard a piano ballad before, but it's just like, it's so good to hear TRiDENT doing something, you know, new to them, even more so than they already had been, you know, sort of stretching themselves even further. And I think there's a lot of us who do constantly want to sort of have new things. Doesn't mean we don't appreciate what we've already got. We just want to expand upon it. We love what we got and we want to see it taken further. And there's a lot of people somewhere in between those two extremes. And all of those are okay. But I think when we're talking to each other as fans, it's kind of worth understanding that people are coming from those different places. And just because someone doesn't particularly want to have their musical taste challenged doesn't mean they're ignorant. And so, you know, as much as the phrase, hey, people like what they like, leave it alone, kind of annoys me, you know, I try not to overreact to it, because of the fact that I think that, you know, a lot of people saying that they're coming from a genuinely good place. They're just like, hey, look, I don't really want to challenge my taste. And that is actually fine. But by the same token, if someone's challenging your tastes and someone's like picking apart a piece of music, it's not because they're some cold, calculating person who doesn't get the simple joy of music. It's maybe because there's someone who really is excited about music and wants to understand it. Someone who really wants to, you know what went into that beautiful meal they just had. You know, someone who, you know, really likes the beautiful car but wants to understand how it works. You know, those kind of things. And this is not even to be just tied to, you know, there's a lot of people who are just like, you know, really into guitars and they want to know every single model of guitar that was used. I guess that's an extension of it as well. For me, it's just like the songwriting. Songwriting's what I care about more than what equipment was used. I want to know the techniques that the songwriter used to craft the song. So those things are really fine. You know, those two things. There's two different types of people when it comes to this, and you know, obviously some Venn diagram mix in the middle. And there's also no problem with either having a simple approach to music or being analytical. And neither of them, you know, analytical people like myself, we're not trying to spoil the fun. We're actually trying to expand the fun. Anyway, those are my thoughts as always. I hope you enjoy my videos. If you watch the longer form videos like this where I just kind of talk, then I assume you're probably more in the same camp as me, where you like to think about music and talk about it and sort of pick apart the interesting facets of what makes music so great. So I assume you're probably in a similar camp to me on that one. But who knows? Get in the comments. Tell me what you think. Do you think that do you think sometimes that you like to have your taste just sort of left alone? I guess we all sometimes. I mean, there's always time and place for everything, isn't there? If you're sitting down enjoying a band you really like, and someone goes, "Well, actually, I'm not so sure that that works," yeah, it's going to piss you off. There is a time and place for everything. But, you know, where do you feel about this? Where do you stand on this line? Are there certain things? I'd be really interested to know. Are there certain like barriers, tastes that you've never been able to cross over? Maybe are there certain tastes that you found you did cross over and you were surprised you never thought you would? Did Japanese music expose you to any styles that you maybe wouldn't have expected? All these kind of things. I'd love to know what you think. So as always, get in the comments. Tell me what you think. These particular videos where I just talk, the conversation beneath some of these is absolutely superb. So I just want to say a big thank you to you guys. Like, some of the stuff that you guys bring up in the conversations is amazing. But those are my thoughts. As always, like I say, get in the comments. Tell me what you think. And until I hopefully see you very soon in Japan for the next one of these. How long was I waffling? 30 minutes! Holy shit, I did not think it was that long. For now, clearly had a lot to say. Ciao, ciao.